Hey everyone, Jim Benson here from Modus Institute and the Collaboration Equation. And today I want to talk about three concepts, three worst practices that we do in business every day that people actually learn in business school are good practices, or best practices, if you will. I need to show that they're worst practices. These three practices are in the book, The Collaboration Equation, and there's a lot more of them in the book, but for sake of having a brief video, three today. So we're going to talk about infantilization, asphyxiation, and shock and awe. So the first one, infantilization. What is it? Well, it's telling people what to do. It's commands, it's demands, it's reprimands, it's anything else sans. It's those things that you do that you think you're being a strong leader, you think you're being decisive, you think you're giving people clarity, but what you're usually doing is telling people a very small part of a story that they now have to go off and act on. So you go in and you say, I want you guys to do these things. And you think that you've been very clear, and then you leave, and then they start to think about, well, what does that mean? You were so decisive and so demanding that when you left the room, there was just this giant leadership vacuum that went with you. They're no longer able to engage in leadership. They're no longer able to collaborate or even do what you ask them to do because you, whether you meant to or not, set up a system of power hoarding where you went in and said, I have decided that this is the way things are going to happen and you need to do it. Only come to me after you have achieved success. Then they come back and they are filled with fear because they're like, well, we don't have any perspective on what he actually means or she actually means. So what are we going to do now? So then they do their best guess. And they do their best guess in a way where it's like they try and guess the most ways that you could become angry with them. Not the best ways to build the thing or to do what you've asked them to do, because that would require them to act in accordance to their own professionalism. It would require them to collaborate and say, okay, what does this problem really need? You didn't ask them to solve a problem, you asked them to do specific work. So you have infantilized these professionals. You have turned them into people who cannot act. Okay? That's infantilization. Number two, asphyxiation, is when you are withholding crucial information that people need to have. So this is kind of like, it's a need-to-know basis. It's not your pay grade. That kind of thing, right? So why do people think this is a best practice? Well, I think it's a best practice because they want to protect the workers from themselves. They're like, they could go off and do all sorts of crazy things. So we don't want them to act prematurely. We don't want them to be nervous. We don't want them to think that something's wrong when maybe it's not wrong. This decision hasn't been decided yet. Yes, there's a thing that's floating out there, but we haven't talked to our legal team or other folks about what our response is. But we all know in every single one of these situations, information leaks out. Information is just available. The world is filled with information now. So people can get information from wherever they want. So these professionals are sitting at their desks, wherever their desks in this world might be. They are seeing signs that whatever you're withholding from them is a thing. And so they start to act. Because they're professionals and they care and they want to protect the company and they want to protect each other and they want to protect themselves. So they will act. And they will act in premature or uninformed ways. So let's say, for example, that what you're withholding from them is something that is entirely internal. You've noticed, your finance department has noticed over the next 3 quarters that you're going to have diminishing receipts from customers. The individual line workers can't see that information. They're just seeing that there's lots of of income right now. And so they're acting on that. Maybe they're hiring consultants, or they're planning vacations, or they're doing this, or they're doing that, but they're acting. And now they're acting both prematurely and in an uninformed way because they don't have that same information that you have. So when I used to work at David Evans and Associates, an engineering company, a long time ago, once a month, we would all get together. Everyone in the office would get together and we would review the financials, both current and projected, for the company. We never had a problem. No one ever mistreated that information. But so many companies will hide that information because they want to make sure that upper management can make those decisions that they need to make. But what happens is this makes mistakes extremely common, right? Mistakes happen all the time now because people don't have the information that they need in order to act with confidence. This leads to learned helplessness. So what happens is they will go out and act prematurely a couple of times. You will show up with this information that you are withholding from them. And now when they go to make professional decisions in the future, when they try to collaborate with each other, when they try and solve problems, they'll be like, wow, what am I not being told? That's not good. Asphyxiation. Okay. The last one, shock and awe, is when teams or professionals or large parts of the company start a project. They get really excited about it. Here, it looks like this. Thank you. There we go. It looks like that. Okay. They go off and they plan to do something. They solve a bunch of problems. They start building the thing, and then you show up. And yes, I'm using the word you a lot in this video, but then you show up and you tell them to throw away all that work, everything that they've put their hearts and souls, creativity, professional, they got themselves worked up about it. They're humans. When people go to work, you want them to be human. You want them to be interested in the product, in the customer, in what they're building, so that they build it right, so that they deliver the service or the product or whatever it is that you're doing, they deliver it right. Okay. What happens now is you're telling them, you're coming in when they're least expecting it, and you're saying, throw away all that work and do something else. So shock and awe is when you come in and give them unexpected, radical shifts in what they're doing. And then they're like, what the hell? So they'll never have the context that you have for why that shift happened unexpectedly. Because when it happens, you're usually coming in and infantilizing them by telling them, do this new thing now, based on the asphyxiation of not telling them that this new shock and awe work was coming up. And now they're sitting there with this massive pile of learned helplessness going, well, crap, why should we start anything? They're just going to come in and change our stuff later. So let's just, I'll go to work, I'll do what I need to, and whatever. From your side, from the upper management decision maker side, you're seeing that there are new opportunities present, that there are these new strategies that you can do, or the current work that they're doing isn't relevant anymore. Those are good reasons for those actions. However, surprising people with radical course corrections to their work repeatedly, and I've seen it more times than I can count, is a killer for professional behavior, for solving problems, for choosing the correct course of action, or for even just giving a damn about your work. So that lack of predictability destroys agency.